Boyfriend cheated on me with his best friend's fiancée, but I found out it was all an insidious scheme of a psychopath. I'm Sarah, 28F, and my life was a perfect picture. If anyone asked for the definition of happiness, I wouldn't hesitate to describe my life. But that was only until the person I trusted most in this world fell victim to an insidious scheme so twisted that I never thought it could exist. It almost destroyed my trust, but also my whole life. Back in college, I was the quintessential bookworm, introverted and focused solely on my studies. My boyfriend, Nathan, the same age, was quite the opposite. He was a notorious playboy who captivated many girls. My friends used to joke that his body count was probably uncountable. He was constantly partying, drinking, and causing trouble, which inevitably led to his grades suffering. Then we ended up in the same class. Nathan was struggling, on the verge of failing, while I was practically unbeatable in every class. He kept pleading for my help. To be honest, at the time, I absolutely despised guys like him. But somehow, by some magic, Nathan gradually and imperceptibly made me fall for him. He wasn't like any other guy I'd met. Nathan was an open book. He didn't hide anything. He patiently waited for me little by little. It took us 4 months of dating before I gave him a kiss. And it wasn't until our 1-year anniversary that I finally, crossed the line with him. He was my first love, my first in everything, so I wanted to be sure I was giving the most precious part of myself to a man who truly loved me and whom I could trust completely. And Nathan delivered. I never asked him to, but he gradually gave up all his wild parties and nights out with his troublemaker friends for me. We found a new group of friends in college together, people who are still close friends to this day. Seeing Nathan change completely for me, I truly believed I had found the one. I thought my life was complete. Everything was smooth sailing with only one exception, a name whom Nathan kept from his old circle, Max. Max was Nathan's childhood best friend, the kind of ride-or-die buddy who was always by his side. Nathan cherished Max, constantly recounting stories of their childhood memories and the parties they always attended together. However, I always felt a shiver down my spine whenever Max's name came up. Max openly detested me, not even bothering to hide it. To him, I was the one who had stolen Nathan away, turning him into a no-fun guy. But that was just the beginning. Max would call and text Nathan constantly, especially when we were together. Nathan had to report his whereabouts to Max no matter where he went. If Nathan didn't answer, Max would throw a fit, demanding to know where he was or why he wasn't responding. That was the scary part. I felt like Max was strangely obsessed with Nathan, as if Nathan were his personal property. To Nathan, perhaps because they grew up together, these behaviors were just a bit over the top to him. He even told me that in the past, whenever he got into any serious relationship with some girl, Max would have a meltdown and try to sabotage the relationship. So he thought the current situation was a huge improvement. I honestly didn't know whether to laugh or cry about that comment. One time, I accidentally overheard a call from Max because Nathan wasn't around. Max was completely drunk, slurring that soon enough, Nathan would be his again, and I would be helpless to do anything about it. At the time, I didn't think much of those drunken, joking words. I was preparing to go home to take care of my mother. To be honest, my mother wasn't in good health. She had a very serious illness that required continuous surgery and treatment. The costs were incredibly high. Although my family could still manage it, it was a constant simmering worry in my mind. I worked, trying my best to help my family and take care of my mom, but I still felt so small and inadequate. During those times, Nathan was my only support. He always encouraged me, comforted me, and was the only person I could be vulnerable with. I truly believed that as long as Nathan was by my side, I could overcome any difficulty. Little did I know, the real disaster was still waiting just around the corner. Then the fateful day arrived. Max's girlfriend, Jessica, was hosting a small engagement party. Though she called it a party, for some reason, Jess only invited the 4 of us. Max, however, was relentlessly calling and texting Nathan, desperately urging him to come. He kept droning on about how Nathan absolutely had to be there for his big day. Nathan hesitated, knowing Max and I weren't fond of each other, and since I was exhausted from dealing with my mother's illness, I decided not to attend. Nathan eventually, albeit reluctantly, agreed to go. But even then, he turned to me with a worried look. He asked if I was okay, telling me he'd cancel immediately if I needed him to. His words touched me deeply. But I also thought it would be a good idea for Nathan to go and de-steam. At least he could have some time to relax with his friends. So I insisted he go. And that, my friends, was the biggest mistake of my life. I was far too naive. I didn't know that my "I'll be fine" decision that day was actually the trigger for a horrifying scheme that Max had been brewing for a long time. That night was when Max and Jessica chose to destroy our happiness forever. And I was the one who pushed Nathan straight into the lion's den. The next morning, still half asleep, I heard the door open, followed by heavy, stumbling footsteps. My heart pounded in my chest. I jolted upright, and then I saw Nathan. He stood there, disheveled, eyes bloodshot with heavy dark circles, as if he'd just wrestled with demons. He reeked of alcohol, mixed with another strong, repulsive odor. He just stood there, head bowed, silent, not saying a word. I was stunned. My whole body felt frozen. I couldn't understand what was happening. He just stood there, and then suddenly, after a long moment of what seemed like torment, he lifted his head. His eyes, they looked as if he'd been through hell. He was filled with extreme fear and something like self-loathing. And then, in a shattered voice, he said, "I cheated on you. I'm sorry. I don't deserve you. I betrayed you with Jessica. Please leave me. Let's break up." I was numb. He said he'd betrayed me with his best friend's fiancée. What was happening? His words were like a knife straight to my heart. After saying that, he just turned and walked away, leaving me sitting there, bewildered, not understanding anything. My entire world simply collapsed. I couldn't believe my ears. Break up? After all the 8 years we'd spent together? Nathan didn't say another word about it after that. He and I still lived in the same house, but we were like two shadows, moving through the same space without uttering a single word to each other. The air in the house was thick, so heavy it was hard to breathe. Despite the silence, Nathan still did the housework, still cooked my favorite meals, and left food on the table for me every morning and evening. He was diligent, but everything was done in silence. I asked him why, but he just apologized and said nothing more. This was the first time he had ever acted this way. I looked at him, at the way he silently did everything, and I understood. Nathan was carrying some terrible burden alone, and even though I was incredibly upset, I also thought we both needed time. Little did I know, this was only the beginning of a much more horrifying conspiracy. Nathan and I lived in that suffocating silence for nearly a week. It felt like a heavy stone was pressing down on both of us. He continued to do everything for me in silence, not a single word exchanged. Although I said he could have his time, a whole week was too much. Then, just as I was trying to keep my calm and not explode, my phone rang, an unknown number. I answered, and a sickly sweet voice chimed, "Hello, Sarah. How's life with you and Nathan these days?" It was Jessica, the one who had, according to Nathan, betrayed me with him. How dare she call me and ask such a question? Why was her voice filled with such glee and sarcasm? It sent shivers down my spine. Suddenly, a lightning bolt flashed through my mind. Something was definitely wrong. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked straight to Nathan, regardless of whether he wanted to talk or not. I pushed him, forced him to tell me everything, as clearly as possible. This time, Nathan recounted that horrific night to me. His voice was filled with disgust. He even shed a few tears. It was the first time I'd seen him cry in all those years. He said that at the party with Max and Jessica, he and Max drank a lot. Max told him that was for the old time. He didn't remember exactly what he did or said, only that Jessica had, given him a BJ. Then, when he woke up the next morning, he found himself naked next to Jessica, with a pile of used condoms scattered on the bed. And Max was there too. Max claimed Nathan had seduced Jessica in a drunken stupor, but because of their friendship, Max claimed he had forgiven Nathan. Nathan kept repeating that he was a terrible person, that he had betrayed me. He believed it was all his fault. My heart ached as I listened to him. I watched him, seeing how he trembled, how he loathed himself. I knew it was genuine remorse. It was the pain and self-disgust of a victim who had been exploited. And even though Nathan had told me everything, a woman's intuition told me something was still off. Jessica's boastful call, Max's strange behavior leading up to this. I'd even noticed in the past that Jessica seemed to have a soft spot for Nathan. All the pieces pointed to a more horrifying truth. I knew I had to get to the bottom of this, no matter what I had to face, and this time I wouldn't be naive. To uncover the truth, I knew there was only one way: get it out of Max. But how could I make him talk? I knew exactly how cunning and brazen Max could be. Pondering deeply, an idea suddenly sparked in my mind. I looked at Nathan and clasped his hand. I told him that no matter what, we would face it together. Then I voiced my suspicions and my plan to him. It was simple. Nathan just needed to meet Max alone at a coffee shop. Just the two of them. I was sure Max would talk. He couldn't resist Nathan at all. Before embarking on this mission, we knew we needed to be prepared. We weren't naive anymore. So we sought advice from a lawyer. We briefly explained our story, and immediately the lawyer gave us invaluable advice. Bring a voice recorder. If anything unusual happened, it would be evidence. See? At this point, we had no other choice. On that day, my heart pounded in my chest. I wore a baggy jacket, a pulled-down baseball cap, and a mask, sitting in a secluded corner of the cafe shop, a good distance from Nathan and Max's table. I tried to pretend I was reading a book, but my ears were perked up and my eyes darted glances. The place was unusually empty that day. Nathan sat opposite Max, his face incredibly tense. Max, however, maintained his smug demeanor, denying everything. When Nathan questioned whether his story about that night was true, Max was evasive and tried to change the subject. He said they were friends and Nathan should trust him. But then, hearing those words, Max looked Nathan straight in the eye and said decisively, "Max, you're right. You're my best friend. I've trusted you more than anyone. So today, I'm begging you, for the sake of our friendship, tell me the truth. What really happened that night?" And then I saw Max hesitate. He wavered, as if battling an intense internal struggle, perhaps surprised by Nathan's directness. The smugness on his face began to crack. He looked at Nathan, then around. The entire cafe seemed to fall silent, and then Max confessed. In a slurring voice tinged with self-satisfaction and malice, Max admitted he had orchestrated everything. He had drugged Nathan and told Jessica to do it all, though Max didn't account for Jessica's impulsive action of calling me. But to him, it didn't matter. "Did you think you could be happy without me, Nathan? No. You're mine. You'll have no one else but me. Sarah, that bitch stole you from me. Now I had to make her disappear." Max. He was truly insane. My heart felt like it would leap out of my chest. Everything had turned upside down. The pain, the disgust Nathan had endured all this time, it was all because of Max's insanity. The person Nathan had trusted the most? I looked at Nathan. He sat there, stunned. In his eyes was absolute shock and deep hurt. He seemed unable to believe in what he had just heard. In that moment, Nathan shot up from his seat. I saw him take a deep breath, looking Max directly in the eye. He spoke loudly, enunciating every word. "I will never have anything to do with you again. You are not my friend." Then Nathan turned and walked away without a single glance back. Of course, Max wouldn't let Nathan leave that easily. He stood up and yelled after Nathan, "You think you can get away from me that easily? You raped Jessica. I have the proof right here." As he spoke, he opened his phone and aimed it at Nathan. I couldn't see clearly what it was, but I knew they were pictures. Max must have prepared everything. He not only orchestrated the attack, but also took photos as evidence to threaten and control Nathan for a time like this. But Nathan, he didn't stop. He gave Max one last look, then turned and walked away, leaving Max's venomous threats behind him. I sat there, relieved that the truth had been exposed, but watching Nathan's retreating figure, my heart ached, knowing the terrible betrayal he had just faced. I went home first, waiting for Nathan with a burning anxiety. When Nathan opened the door and walked in, I looked at him. His eyes, they no longer held shame or self-disgust. Instead, there was an emptiness, an unbearable pain, and an incredulous shock. I didn't say a word. Neither did Nathan. He just stood there looking at me. And then he walked towards me slowly. He opened his arms and I rushed into them. We just held on to each other tightly, not saying a single word. I could feel him trembling in my arms, and so was I. Tears just streamed down endlessly. We cried for the pain, for the days lived in doubt and agony, cried for the cruel betrayal, and cried for the horrifying truth that had just been exposed. And in that very moment, I felt our love hadn't shattered. On the contrary, it was stronger, more resilient 1,000 times over. We had walked through hell together, faced the most painful truth together. We knew we couldn't just let Max and Jessica get away with this. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, life decided it wasn't done with me yet. Amidst all the chaos, another news struck me like a lightning bolt. My mother's condition had taken a drastic turn for the worse. The doctor said she needed emergency surgery, and even with insurance, the cost this time could be astronomical. I felt like I was suffocating. On one side, my relationship with Nathan was in crisis. On the other, my mother's life was at stake. I truly didn't know what to do. In that desperate moment, Nathan did something he never thought he'd do. He reached out to his family for support. To be honest, their relationship wasn't great because of how devious Nathan was in the past. However, he decided to contact them. Their reaction, though, was far from what Nathan had hoped for. Nathan's father's reaction was immediate and cold. He constantly questioned why Nathan was getting involved in outsiders' affairs. He claimed to have heard from Max that I was manipulating Nathan and draining him of money, and that I had instigated him to cut ties with Max. That guy was truly a step ahead of us. You've ruined our relationship with Max's family. What were you thinking? Decades of friendship between our families. It's all gone now? Take your responsibility seriously. Those were the last words Nathan's father said before hanging up, not giving Nathan a chance to explain. Nathan, he was completely crushed. He wasn't just betrayed by Max and Jessica. Now he was doubted and blamed by his own family. They believed in Max over him. Yet he still turned to me and apologized for not being able to help. Even as his world fell apart, Nathan still thought of me. But that wasn't the end of Max's schemes. It was only the beginning. Max and Jessica then launched another vicious attack, blindsiding us. They started spreading rumors on social media that drunken Nathan had raped Jessica. The rumor spread faster than a virus. There were even blurry, photoshopped images circulating. People began discussing, dissecting, and judging every single detail. Coupled with Nathan's glorious past, everyone seemed to believe that Nathan was a depraved individual, a cheater who had an affair with his best friend's fiancée. That malicious news crept into every corner, even reaching Nathan's company. Soon, Nathan was called in by his manager and immediately suspended. Not long after, they officially fired him, citing moral scandal and damaging the company's reputation. Two of them didn't stop there. Max relentlessly bombarded us with calls and texts, spewing the most venomous insults. "See, Nathan, you've lost everything. Your job, friends, family. You have nothing left. Only I will be by your side." Not just Nathan, Jessica even dared to text me, claiming I was the reason Nathan lost everything and telling me to disappear and free Nathan from my life. These people, they didn't just want to break us up, they wanted us to completely collapse and become subservient to them. It was despicable. At that point, I knew we couldn't just sit back. We had to fight, no matter the cost. Amidst that darkness, a glimmer of light appeared. Max's widespread information inadvertently reached someone, Miss Evelyn. She was Nathan's maternal aunt and also a professor to both Nathan and me during our university days. Back then, even when Nathan was still a troublemaker, she always trusted and deeply loved her nephew. Upon hearing the news, she contacted him. She listened to his every word with astonishing calmness and understanding. Then she revealed something. She had known about Max's manipulative and toxic behavior for a very long time. In fact, she even had irrefutable evidence. Miss Evelyn recounted that even before Nathan started university, Max had frequently displayed strange behaviors. Max always tried to control Nathan, preventing him from forming close relationships with anyone else. To keep Nathan partying with him, Max even secretly hid a highly sought-after internship notification from a major company, hoping to discourage Nathan from pursuing his studies. Miss Evelyn even kept some messages and emails from other students who could testify that Max was trying to isolate Nathan. Max was now revealed to be more than just a terrible friend. He was a severely obsessed psychopath, constantly trying to manipulate and control Nathan to keep him in his clutches. That was more than enough to hear. We decided to file a report against Max and Jessica with the police. We had the recorded confession from Max, and now we had additional evidence from Miss Evelyn. At the police station, we met a female detective named Miller. Initially, she was quite skeptical, especially given that Nathan, as a man, was the victim of a sexual assault. She looked at us as if we were making things up. I understood. Society still has its biases, but we didn't give up. Nathan tried to recount the entire story, detailing every horrific minute. I also added what I knew, and crucially, we presented all the evidence we had. At this point, I saw Detective Miller's eyes change. She listened, observing Nathan more closely. She seemed to be starting to understand and believe us. In that moment, I felt a small but bright spark of hope ignite within me. We had found an ally, and our fight for justice had finally begun. With Detective Miller's help, we filed the report. Right from the start, Max and Jessica denied everything. They squirmed, acting like victims of slander. Max played the part of the betrayed friend, claiming he was being made up. Jessica, with her crocodile tears, feigned innocence, portraying herself as a virtuous woman who was raped by a degenerate. You know what? I swear they deserved an Oscar for their acting. The difficulties didn't stop there. Max's family also used their connections to pressure both the police and our lawyer. That's when I understood why Nathan's father had reacted so unreasonably when he heard about Max and Nathan's disagreement. Max's family truly had influence. They didn't care about truth or justice. They only wanted to protect their son's filthy reputation. Max's father even called Nathan and flat out threatened that if we didn't withdraw the complaint, he would use every means to destroy my career and my life. That's right, they directly attacked Nathan psychologically by using me as a hostage. Not only that, all our acquaintances received information about Nathan's scandal of stealing his best friend's fiancée. We were gradually shunned by everyone, and even heavily criticized on social media with malicious and gloating comments. The path to truth was truly more difficult and brutal than any nightmare I had ever experienced. Still, even on that difficult path, we always had people who believed in us and stood by our side. First and foremost was my brother, Liam. He's always been someone I could lean on. When he learned about Mom's situation and then Nathan's, Liam didn't hesitate for a second. He wasn't just a strong emotional support for me, always encouraging and comforting, but also a crucial source of financial aid. Having Liam there allowed me to breathe a little easier. Additionally, Miss Evelyn continued to closely follow her nephew's situation. She didn't just offer us more financial help, she also spoke with Nathan's family to help them understand what their son was truly going through. Thankfully, this lessened some of the pressure on us. And then the fateful day arrived when we had to face Max and Jessica in court. Even with the evidence, standing before the judge and facing their brazen lies, I still felt a tremor of fear. Max and Jessica continued to feign victimhood, denying everything and still trying to paint Nathan as a sick rapist. But indeed, justice, though slow, is inescapable. After everything, we won the case. Justice was served. Nathan was completely exonerated. It wasn't just a victory in a lawsuit. It was a victory for truth. I looked at Nathan. He stood there smiling, but tears streamed down his face. They were tears of liberation after living through hell for so long. We did it. We overcame everything. Max and Jessica, the two who had destroyed our lives, finally paid for what they did. Those who play with fire eventually get burned. Karma had come to collect. Immediately after the trial, Max and Jessica's brazen facades crumbled. Not only were their true selves exposed legally, but society also saw them for who they really were. Due to the information that had spread previously, both of them faced severe social ostracism online, and in real life, everyone turned their backs on them. What they feared most, the reputation and honor they had meticulously built, was now shattered into a million pieces. Now, even their own relationship has shattered, consumed by mutual hatred and blame. When everything fell apart, when they both had to face the consequences, they couldn't hide it anymore. They turned on each other, blaming one another in court and in public. I heard they even got into physical fights and hurled insults at each other. Truly a pathetic sight. As for Max, that scumbag, besides losing everything, he might even face a prison sentence, my friends. Depending on the severity of the crimes proven, I believe he will pay for everything he did to Nathan, to me, and to others. Justice has been served, and the truth has come to light. And Nathan and I, we can finally move forward with much lighter hearts. After all the storms, the sun finally emerged. My mother, she's slowly recovering from the surgery, though she still needs special care. Seeing her smile and talk again feels like a miracle. The heaviest burden on my heart has finally eased somewhat. And Nathan, he's found a new job. It's not his old company or his old position, but it's a new beginning. He's worked incredibly hard to rebuild his career from scratch after all the rumors and scandals that Max and Jessica deliberately fabricated against him. I look at him and I see a man stronger and more resilient than ever before. We faced tragedy, but we decided not to let this tragedy define our lives. We didn't allow what Max and Jessica did to turn us into bitter, hateful people. Instead, it made our love stronger, more resilient, and infinitely deeper. We overcame everything together, even that hell. We fought, we rose from the ashes, and we won. Nathan isn't just the first person I loved. He's the one who fought by my side through every storm. He's the one who faced the cruelest people with me, who helped me stand up when the whole world seemed to collapse. He's not just the love of my life, he's my soulmate. We've been through hell together, and I know we'll get through anything else. No matter what challenges life throws our way, we'll face them hand in hand and overcome them. Because our love has been forged in fire and water, and it will be eternal. Thank you for listening to today's story from the Guilty Notes channel. If this story resonated with you, please like, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional real-life stories and valuable lessons. See you in the next video.